Alright guys, welcome back to Formula 1 news, and with the team's designers underway preparing the car for next season, Mercedes have to answer the question as to what concept they are going to go for in 2023. Lewis Hamilton said the team should not be stubborn about thinking their current concept is the best, but George Russell says that if they decide to copy Ferrari or Red Bull, it could actually set the team back further. Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I'd greatly appreciate it. Firstly, on the driver's side, just to make things clear, because lots of news coming out every day at this point with regard to Daniel Ricciardo, Oscar Piastri, what's going on. Apparently, Ricciardo has been supposedly informed on either Sunday night after the Grand Prix in Hungary or on Monday that, yes, Piastri is going to replace him. The deal apparently was done last Saturday, and now it's effectively a week later, and we're hearing all this type of stuff come out to the public, right? So, yes, a source has confirmed to ESPN and other outlets as well that Piastri to McLaren is effectively a done deal. Ricciardo will more than likely go the other way to Alpine. Of course, that does mean that Fernando Alonso, who kind of kicked this whole thing off, is going to go to Aston Martin. Many have raised questions. Why is he doing this? Is this a good idea? Felipe Massa has actually said, I'm not really sure what he hopes to gain over there. I suppose we'll see how the coming seasons go for Fernando, right? And even Helmut Marko from Red Bull definitely giving some indications they still really respect Alonso in that camp. He's super fast. It's unbelievable what kind of races he delivers. Saying right here, so kind of impressive really that Alonso still commands this level of respect between the teams and the drivers. And I'm sure Alonso, after his Aston Martin tenure, apparently a 3-year deal at Aston Martin, but if the team doesn't deliver the performance results that he wants, I'm pretty sure he's able just to walk out and leave. And knowing Alonso, this guy's probably eyeing up Perez's seat, he's probably eyeing up Hamilton's seat when Hamilton retires. I wouldn't put it past this guy, right? So maybe that's his plan, to stay at Aston Martin for a couple of years. Hopefully the car gets better, but if it doesn't, try and still be competing at 45. Who knows exactly what Alonso's plan is. Now, Alpine have said, of course, after losing Alonso, his decision to leave, that they're confident that they will remain ahead of Aston Martin, saying effectively, yeah, we don't expect Aston Martin to catch us up. Could be famous last words to a degree. It is also interesting, right, that Alpine have been snubbed effectively by Oscar Piastri in favour of McLaren, especially because right now the teams that seem somewhat similar in calibre. Alpine are marginally ahead, I believe, in the Constructors' Championship, but McLaren, of course, has a better aura around it and also probably has higher ambition, which is maybe another indication as to why Alpine has been rejected twice and they've lost 2 of their star drivers within a couple of days in Alonso and Piastri. Maybe an indication of what's going on there. Now, whether Aston Martin are going to be a better team than them seems unlikely, but they are pushing hard, and Alpine, at times do seem rather content with 4th place if they can get it. Another team that could be interested in Gasly potentially would, of course, be Alpine, right? There is a seat available there. There was some rumours. Okay, could Gasly and Ocon be the duo? I'm not sure those guys particularly get on well, so I don't think this would make too much sense. 2 French drivers that don't like each other in a French team. Sounds like a very French state of affairs, to be honest. But yes, apparently Gasly has an exit clause in his contract that will allow him to leave AlphaTauri if he is approached by a team higher in the standings. So of course he has re-signed. The contract is there for 2023 with AlphaTauri. So I imagine he's still going to be at AlphaTauri next year, but there has been the thought process, right? If Alpine were to come and say, look, Gasly, come along. Now they're probably going to get Ricciardo, but if that was the case, he probably would be able to leave due to this clause. So just something to keep your eyes on, because Gasly, yes, he's underperformed this season, but certainly so has the car. So after 2023, I'm sure he's thinking about what's next for him and the team itself. Let's talk Mercedes then, right? So of course, going into this summer break, they're preparing some further upgrades to the car, but also the team is definitely going to be thinking about next year's design. What design do the teams go with? Do Red Bull double down on this year's car? Would make perfect amount of sense, really, given the success that they have had. Will Ferrari take their design and refine it further next year, or will they decide, okay, maybe the Red Bull concept is better, more efficient, or whatever, or will Red Bull do the other, will it go the other way around? Or will either of those teams look at the Mercedes and say, well, actually, their design is quite good, we could go with that? More than likely not, because Mercedes have run into their fair share of problems. And that's the thing, if you do decide to change up your concept entirely, is that other teams that currently run that concept have a better understanding of it, right? If Mercedes next year were to say, okay, look, the Ferrari, it's the quickest car, we're just going to copy their design pretty much and just do our own spin on it. Ferrari have a much better understanding of that car over a year or so than Mercedes do, so it'd be catch-up you're effectively playing there in terms of understanding the nuances of the car. But Hamilton did mention in an interview we looked at a few days ago, right, that he said, look, the team should not get stubborn about this year's design, because the engineers, of course, have a lot of pride about their creations. They thought that this version, this concept with their kind of no side pod design was going to be the fastest one out of what any team could produce. It was in the simulators. In reality, though, obviously hasn't been the story so far. Both Red Bull and Ferrari have been rather significantly significantly quicker. So Hamilton's like, look, don't get stubborn. If we need to change our concept, let's do it. Let's be humble. And if there's a better design out there, like, let's actually just go for it, right? But that is kind of the concern, right? Is that if you copy the Red Bull, then Red Bull also have an entire year of understanding about that concept that Mercedes just have to catch up on. So my guess would be they're probably going to stick with this year's concept because they clearly still believe it can be the fastest. And George Russell actually said after Hungary that he reckons, look, we've probably just got to stick with it and keep on pushing. That's not just for this year's car, because there was even some talk earlier this season. Could they go back to the other design of the Mercedes? Back in Barcelona at pre-season testing, they had a very different looking car with massive side pods. Not massive, they were still relatively conservative, but I was looking at that car thinking it's nothing special really. And then of course they came to Bahrain with the no side pod design and really took the world by storm effectively. That's because the simulations indicated that they could gain about a second per lap with that design compared to the one they showed up with in Barcelona that was still pretty much topping the timesheets, albeit of course pre-season testing, it doesn't really matter that much in terms of the actual numbers. Even like the McLarens were right up there of course at the start of the season. But it does seem like Mercedes still do think that their car concept can be the quickest. They've had to lose a bit of downforce in figuring out how to deal with porpoising, but now they seemingly understand that, they can start to gain it back as they have been doing. So George Russell says of course after their good results, sometimes you've just got to stick to the process and keep on pushing. I don't think changing car concept is going to make us go any faster. Maybe to the contrary, to be honest, and that's difficult to do when you're off the pace. Things don't seem to be going your way, but personally I believe in every single person in our team, and I think we are making huge progress for the time being. So saying, look, if we change the car concept next season, it's probably not going to help us. Going on to say that now instead of finishing a minute behind first place, they're finishing like 10 seconds behind first place, which of course, you know, isn't too bad all things considered. Many teams have opted to switch their car concept already, right? The likes of Haas have gone for a Ferrari approach. We've had Williams and Aston Martin both effectively copy the Red Bull. You wouldn't really expect Mercedes to do that, but they have considered changing the design, ditching this concept and looking at combinations of different concepts for next year. So that's rather interesting that they've mentioned that, okay, they might say, okay, our car's good, but maybe we need to take some elements of the Ferrari, elements of the Red Bull to make our concept better, because it seems to be a car design that can work. The Mercedes has in recent races looked more competitive, but it still seems to be an incredibly volatile car and concept. They need to nail everything on to make it look good, and if they fail to nail like the setup effectively, the car just looks terrible as it has for large parts of practice so far this season. The Ferrari generally seems to be able to turn up to any circuit and look pretty good immediately. So George Russell says they should stick with the design that you see on the left-hand side here, of course very different to Ferraris. They could of course go down an entirely different route with whatever is allowed within the regulations, but if they do that, they're losing ground on all the kind of data and the understanding they've gained from this car concept this season. What will they do remains to be seen. I do wonder whether they know that this car concept has more to it than is currently being delivered, because they seem to be very confident that this car concept, and they have been all year, is the way to go if they can just unlock it. And I wonder if there's a bit of smoke and mirrors going on. You can never really tell with Mercedes. But when Hamilton, we looked at the clip a couple of days ago where he says, look, we should be humble, not be too stubborn about changing our car concept. I wonder if like Hamilton has been told by the engineers, look, we've got more in the tank with this concept if we do really nail it on next year. And Mercedes don't want to give anything away to the other teams. They've been like, okay, let's say Mercedes just dominate the last several races of the season. Like Red Bull and Ferrari are certainly going to look at their car and think, hang on a second, are we going to have to do that for our car next season or something? If that is truly the quickest design, because right at the start of the year in Bahrain in testing, that's what a lot of people were saying, right? They're like, okay, wow, Mercedes have found this loophole or whatever to do the no side pod design. Like that's going to be the meta, right, in Formula One in the future. And there as a result, going to dominate the next few seasons. Of course, hasn't worked out in that way, but maybe as time progresses, their design will prove to be superior, and they might not really want to let anyone onto that, right? If you're Red Bull and Ferrari, you're not really going to copy the Mercedes anyway, at least as it stands right now. But if Mercedes really do have as much confidence as they appear to in the potential of this concept and design, then they don't really want to give too much away, you'd imagine. But of course, the results might do the talking for them if they continue to progress as they have done the last few races. Far from a guarantee, though. So definitely tweet your thoughts in the comment section below. What should Mercedes do? Will they stick with this concept? Will they copy the Ferrari or the Red Bull? Just to mention this as well, actually, from Toto Wolff, he talks about the possibility of 5 teams competing for race victories, and even 5 teams competing for the World Championship in a few years' time. This seems rather optimistic, but of course the cost cap coming into effect should mean that as time progresses, it's no longer so clear which team has an advantage, right? It's about who spends their money most wisely. The spending cap is, well, should theoretically compact the group rather than allowing the Red Bulls, the Mercedes, the Ferraris that have more resource to just go out and spend all the money and create the best cars. He reckons in 2 years, in 2024, we will have 5 teams capable third of winning races, and after another 3 years, as many as that fighting for the World Championship. So quite an exciting prospect. Not sure I'm quite as optimistic as this will get that many teams still competing, because as it stands right now, the top 3 teams are very clearly the top 3 teams, and after that, the other teams are miles behind on current pace. But as time progresses with the cost cap and stuff like this, you know, it should be possible for McLaren and Alpine or another team to really get up into the fight there to potentially win races on merit. That would be exciting. Whether that'll happen in 2 years, not really sure, but that was the intention of the cost cap, and hopefully that is coming to fruition sooner rather than later. But very much intrigued to your thoughts and all this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new as always, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time.